Thank you, Chairwoman. I yield back.
Yields
Thank
back. The gentleman from California, Mr. Khanna, is recognized for 5 minutes. Mr. Khanna.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your leadership. I'll remind this committee that we had a bipartisan hearing in 2019 and calls on both the Democratic and Republican side to have TransDigm reimburse the federal government $16.1 million. They did the right thing then. They must reimburse the government at least $20.8 million, the excess profit finding. Let me start with Ms. Hull. Do you agree that that's the least TransDigm can do in reimbursing the government for that?
Thank you for the question. I stand by our report that the $20.8 million that TransDigm earned excess profits on the 105 spare parts should be refunded to the government.
I mean, it would be unconscionable, in my view, for them not to do that, given that they admitted their error last time. I hope they will. Let me ask you, General Glenn Fine said when he was before us in 2019, we ought to look to the legislative structure to require companies to provide cost information, but when asked by contracting officers. Basically, if the DoD wants to buy something and asks the company for the cost, they should be required to do so. Do you agree, Ms. Hull, that companies like TransDigm should be required to provide uncertified cost data when the contracting officer deems it necessary?
Yes, I agree that when a contracting officer is unable to determine a fair and reasonable price and asks a contractor, especially in a sole source environment, they should obtain the data that they request.
Mr. Tenaglia, if contracting officers could require contractors like TransDigm to provide uncertified cost data, would that empower our government, our Pentagon, to make better buying decisions?
Yes, I believe it would. And central to that is the judgment that our contracting officers exercise in getting to the point where they've decided that that is necessary to establish fair and reasonable pricing, using the hierarchy of other means of established that price.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I ask for unanimous consent to place in the record a written testimony from Mandy Smithberger, Director at the Project of Government Oversight. She wrote, quote, "It is time for Congress. It is time for Congress to stop enabling contractor overpricing. The problems identified by this watchdog report and other reports are only the tip of the iceberg, but the solutions are clear. They can only be fixed if Congress gets serious and takes action." Madam Chair, you have gotten serious. You're taking action with the bill, the Fair Pricing with Cost Transparency Act, that would require contractors to provide uncertified cost information. I'm joining you in supporting that. I hope everyone on the committee will. Mr. Tenaglia, this bill is based on the legislative proposal from the DoD, so I assume you would support changing the law for DoD contractors. Is that right?
Yes, Congressman, I look forward to working with your committee and understanding how that legislation would help us.
Mr. Howley, last time you came before the committee, you denied, you obfuscated, et cetera. I said, you're going to end up paying the $16.1 million. You disagreed. You went back. People told you pay the $16.1 million. You want to skip those steps and just tell us today that you're going to pay the $20.8 million?
Nick?
Apologize. I have to unmute. I think I'm unmuted now. Let me start by saying we are primarily a commercial company. The Department of Defense, though, is not our largest customer by a fair amount, but they're an important customer.
Mr. Howley, I don't want to be disrespectful. It's a simple question. Are you going to pay it or you're not going to pay it? I mean, it's a simple yes or no.
You answered the question, and I'll attempt to answer it. The last thing we want, we do not like an unhappy, antagonized customer. What we want to do is we want to get to the bottom of the facts so that everyone understands the facts clearly, at which point we can see what kind of resolution we can have here. We cannot go forward with a assertion.
I'll take that as a yes. That as a yes.
You'll take it. You can take it as a yes. You can take that incorrectly as a yes. We cannot go forward without the facts being clearly stated and clearly understood.
Madam Chairman,
It's unfortunate. I thought you were going to do it. My prediction is you will do it. It'd be better for you to just say here you're going to do it.
Madam Chairman,